Everybody knows about the Holocaust of Jews. It is considered to be one of the most horrendous chapters of human history. But the first Holocaust of the 20th century happened much before in Armenia, an ancient Christian country situated just north of the Fertile Crescent, abutting the beautiful Caucasus Mountain. The Islamic Ottoman Empire wiped off the entire Christian population of Armenia, killing more than 1.5 million people. To understand what led to this unspoken human tragedy, we need to go to the time before Christ. The kingdom of Armenia was ruled by three dynasties: Orontid, Artaxiad, and Arsacid. Being close to Greece, Armenia had Hellenistic influences with many pagan gods. Zoroastrianism was also a major religion in Armenia until 301 AD, when Arsacid king Tiridates III converted to Christianity under the influence of Gregory the Illuminator and proclaimed Christianity to be the state religion of Armenia. Thus, Armenia became the first nation to adopt Christianity as state religion. After the advent of Islam, it became increasingly difficult for the Christian Armenians to defend their territory, religion, and traditions. But they kept their Christian practices alive by paying the jizya tax under the Umayyad Caliphate. Armenians kept alternating between independence and serving under other great powers. In the 16th century, Armenian lands were divided into two parts. Eastern Armenia was controlled by the Shia Persian empires, and Western Armenia, the larger part, was controlled by the Sunni Ottoman Turkey. More significantly, Mount Ararat, the sacred center of Armenia, came under the control of the Ottoman Turkey. Just as Mount Kailash is an important sacred center for Hindus and Buddhists despite lying outside the boundaries of modern India, Mount Ararat is a holy mountain for all Armenians despite being situated outside the borders of modern Armenia. Under Turkish and Persian occupation, Armenians suffered heavy religious persecution, with many of them being targeted, expelled, and forcefully converted to Islam. In the early 19th century, Eastern Armenia was annexed by Russia from Persia. While Armenians were politically repressed under Russia as well, the Armenian middle class, comprising of craftsmen and merchants, prospered under Russia. Eastern Armenia became a safe haven for all Armenian Christians, as both Armenians and Russians were Orthodox Christians, and the Armenian Orthodox Church was given a degree of autonomy by the Russian Empire. For Western Armenia, unfortunately, the misery continued under the Ottoman Empire. Targeted killings of Christians, rape of Armenian women, and several other communal crimes continued under Ottoman rule. In 1896, Ottoman Sultan Hamid II ordered the killings of Armenian Christians, resulting in the death of around 3 lakh of them. This was a precursor of the Armenian genocide to come. The mass killings of Armenians continued even in the aftermath of the Young Turk Revolution of 1908, when the government of Sultan Hamid II fell and a new Turkey rose to power. This new Turkey was supposed to be more modern, less medieval in approach, and more tolerant to its Christian minorities. However, in the very next year of 1909, more than 30,000 Armenians were brutally finished off by the Turk in the Adana massacre. Then World War I began in 1914. Ottoman Turkey fought alongside the Germans. As soon as the war started, Turkey started killing off its Christian minorities, the largest of which were the Armenians. Turkey's excuse was that they were siding with the Russians, Turkey's enemies in the war. There were a significant number of Greek Orthodox and other smaller non-Muslim minorities in Turkey, all of whom came under the fire from not just the Turkish army but also commoners from Turkey's majority community. During the war, regular pogroms against non-Muslims were carried out. For instance, in 1915, the Ottoman army finished off around 50,000 Armenian civilians in the city of Van in eastern Turkey. In the fog of war, nobody paid any attention towards what the Turkish Muslims were doing to their Christian minorities. Turkish authorities also forcefully deported Armenians from their towns and villages and resettled Muslims in the Armenian lands. While Armenian men were usually executed, the women and children were told to march on foot to the Syrian desert. Execution sites were chosen near the highways, in rugged mountainous terrain, and near lakes, wells, or rivers. While on march, unspeakable atrocities were perpetrated on the Armenians. They were also denied any water or food, and thus almost all of them perished walking on foot. This has an uncanny resemblance to how Indian slaves being transported from Indian subcontinent to Central Asia in the slave caravans of the Arabs and Turks were treated, and how they died in the mountains of the Hindu Kush. From 1915 to 1916, anywhere between 800,000 to 1.2 million Armenians were deported from their homes and marched to the Syrian desert. Only eastern Armenia, which was under Russian control, survived the ghastly fate. Between 1915 and 1917, around 1.5 million Armenian Christians lost their lives. Half of this loss of life happened under New Turkey, which had already started to profess secularism both in politics and society. In 1920, the Western powers woke up to the reality of what Turkey's actions against its religious minorities. Meanwhile, in India, Mahatma Gandhi was spearheading the Caliphate movement in support of Turkey, the very same Turkey who was responsible for all this bloodshed. So what lessons can India draw from this tragic history of Armenia? Consider this. Despite claiming to be a secular state, Turkey during World War I continued with the persecution of Armenians. Today, Turkey under Erdogan still continues to harbor ambitions of resurrecting a neo-Ottoman empire. Compare this with events in Bangladesh, another constitutionally secular country where its Hindu minorities are routinely persecuted. The question is this: is secularism possible in a Muslim majority society?